What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and talk about what you should be watching for next week, because we have the big midterm elections coming up, not to mention CPI. I also have some updates from Elon Musk himself about Twitter and some very big things as well. Now, before I break anything down about Elon Musk and Tesla and the big catalysts for next week, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, so don't take any of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any of these 12 free stocks could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in a week, so please check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at Tesla, this thing was down about 3.64% for the day, and we had a very interesting open to start us off. So I predicted that Tesla would actually have a nice push into the open, hitting about that 218 to 220 zone. Tesla ended up going to about 223.8 a share, so we almost hit 224, very close to that. We had this big gap up here. We came down a bit, almost filling the gap. Then we got a nice balance. We started to push up a little bit more. And after that, we saw this thing just, it struggled to actually break past this resistance. We formed almost a double top right here. And as I predicted, Tesla would see a big sell off on Friday. That is what ended up happening. We just went down and down and down. Now, I first mentioned that 211 is going to be a critical zone for Tesla. I wanted to see us kind of bounce around here. We ended up not holding that. So the next big zone would be 209. We tried to hold this 209 to 211 zone for about an hour, but then we ended up just not necessarily holding it, and we came down even more from there. We had some very bearish looking candles right over here. And the next zone that was important was that 205 range. We actually went right past that to about 203, but you guys will notice something. We were basically kind of like range trading for a couple of hours between 205 and 203, just going back and back and forth like this. And finally, as we came to the last couple of hours of the day, the market started to rally just a bit. This did help Tesla push all the way up to about 209. Then we ended up closing at 207. So very wild day with a nice push near the very end, but Tesla did not necessarily hold up that well, so to speak. Now, I did foresee some weakness in the share price as we did end up following what I predicted. I was off by about like $3 or $4 when it came to our peak. I was off by about $2 when it came to where Tesla would close at. And my prediction for the absolute bottom for the day would be like 205. We ended up actually coming to like 203. So I was pretty close on almost everything. However, we didn't actually hit a lot of the targets some people were kind of like looking for, and Tesla was showing some weakness compared to the markets. Now, the thing about this weakness that we did see on Tesla's end is there's no guarantee it's going to last for a very long time, because we have midterms coming up, and this could actually lead to a big change in the futures and also for the markets. Looking at Tesla's comparison to the QQQ, you notice that Tesla is very similar, at least as of right now. The tech sector is showing a little bit of weakness as of right now. But looking at the SPY and its comparison to Tesla, both of them have been trending down a bit over the last couple of days, but overall the comparison is still showing SPY a little bit stronger as of recent than Tesla. When it comes to its price pairs ratio compared to Tesla and the SPY, there's still weakness on Tesla's end, but this is trending up a bit, which is a sign that Tesla's not as weak as it was like a week ago or before, when this thing was at like 200 to 198. Many analysts are still very bullish on Tesla, of course, and Mondays have a tendency of actually being green about 53% of the time for Tesla, at least for this year alone. Historically, November is a good month for Tesla. We're up about 66% of the time during those months. However, the problem with this is a very special November, as we have midterms and CPI, and also Powell came out and he was very hawkish on the latest FOMC meeting. He mentioned the fact that the Fed is going to be forceful, and thoughtful at the same time. So these things will affect the market and its price action. The short interest of Tesla has been trending on the downside a bit. However, it's not really working out for the share price, at least for the short term, because we are seeing weakness from the QQQ and the tech side. Now, this could all change because of this thing known as the midterm rally. That's because of the fact that when it comes to midterms, this affects who ends up making it in Congress. All right, so the entire House of Representatives and 1/3 of the Senate is going to be up for re-election. And what happens during this time is the new politicians that come in or the replacements and who actually has the majority control of these branches of government, they're in turn going to affect taxation, regulations, and policies like this, which is why it's very important for many institutional investors when they do see moves like this. This will also affect how the share prices end up moving, in my opinion, because we could see a temporary kind of like rally, or at least the markets hold up until then. I highly doubt the market's going to be crashing extremely hard going into it, and that's just my own 2 cents. And that's the reason why I don't think that the first half of next week are going to be that bad, but I am still concerned about the second half. That's because of the fact that at 8:30 a.m. on November 10th, which is 2 days after the midterm elections, we have a CPI coming out for for the month of October. Excuse me, it's for October, right? It comes out in November, it's for October. This is important because look, the Fed mentioned that they're going to make big changes based off data. And right now, looking at gas prices for the month of October, we actually saw them go up in October compared to September if we look at the average prices for all retail out there. So, this is not the best of signs. This is a sign that CPI is going to be high again, maybe higher than September's numbers. And we are still not seeing the full effects of these rate hikes just yet. It's going to take even more time. And this is why the market is still very, very cautious. Jerome Powell did mention the fact that the overall terminal funds rate could be higher than expected. And that's not the best of signs for the markets as well, which is why, in my honest opinion, there is going to be more pain in this market over the next couple of weeks. But for the super short term, going into midterms, we might see some kind of like rally. Maybe we hold up until the pain really starts to come. Now, because of the fact that the Fed is being very like hawkish and kind of aggressive right now, demand is going to be heavily affected in the United States, which in turn is going to hurt businesses and cause a potential earnings recession. So earnings are not projected to be as strong, and this is the reason why we're starting to see a lot of these big companies like Google, like Meta, like Apple and Facebook and whatever, they're all not doing as well because the market is very future looking. So if we actually go and start looking at the charts now, I wanted to note something important. If you look at Apple, all right, Apple really affects the SPY. Apple came down pretty hard, and this thing is actually at like the lowest value we have seen in the last like year and a half. But what else is good about it though, if you look at the daily, all right, we actually formed a double bottom right here at about 134. And instead of actually kind of like collapsing and coming all the way down, we ended up holding it. We got a nice bounce off 134, which is a sign the market might continue to push to the upside. Apple does have the ability, in my opinion, to push up a little bit more, which could bring SPY up, and SPY pushing up could affect the futures and many other big ETFs out there. On top of that, if you look at like Amazon, let me see Amazon. Amazon actually managed to push up to the green to end the day, which is very interesting to see, which is a sign the market might push up a little bit more for next week. Meta was also kind of green for the day as the market had a nice push, but Tesla was the one that ended up falling behind it this time. Now, Tesla's kind of green in the after hours, so what I'm hoping for is two main possibilities. Because of midterm elections, I think that there's a chance the market might rally a little bit. I'm not necessarily promising it, but I think it's more likely to happen. I would say there's more than a 51% chance that happens, maybe a 60% chance. And if that's not the case, then we have to be prepared for anything. When it comes to Tesla, I'm hoping that we got a nice bounce off 203 and we start pushing to the upside from here. I'm hoping this thing actually breaks above 211 and we actually retest 215 very soon. Now, I do think that Tesla has potential to do this, but before that happens, we're either going to continue like pushing up from here, or we might come down, retest this like 203 area, maybe 202 to 200 flat. We could actually retest this first before getting a nice bounce and then pushing up. And that's essentially what I see for the short term. Now, unfortunately, as much as people love the rallies, they love to see the market go up. I can't guarantee this is going to last very long because, like I mentioned, on the 10th, we have CPI, and CPI, in my opinion, is not looking too good. So here are the big dates you have to watch for next week. First off, with the whole midterm election rally, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a bit of a push up approaching this date, which is right here, the vertical line. But as we approach the 10th of November, all right, this is going to be on Thursday. I'm not as necessarily bullish. I'm not as excited about this date because CPI is not projected to be as good. And if CPI is still pretty bad, it's likely going to lead to more pain for markets, more pain for for employment and things like that because of the Fed becoming more hawkish. All right, so be ready now. Now, one good thing about the market though is we are starting to see unemployment go up just a little bit. I think it's like 3.7% now instead of like the 3.6 projected target. So now employment is starting to be affected by the rate hikes, and it's getting slower and slower, which is a good sign for the markets and a potential pivot over the next couple of months. Now, Powell did not mention the time we're going to see a pivot, but it is very possible for it to happen by the time we get to like next year, maybe early into next year. Now, for Tesla, I'm hoping this thing gets a nice push above 211 to 215, hopefully by Monday. And if this thing actually manages to hold these zones, this thing could really run to about the 220 to 226 mark pretty quickly as we approach the midterm elections. Now, on the day of midterms, it's very possible that the market's going to rally a little bit more and hold up. They're going to artificially try to pump it, in my opinion. This is what tends to happen during these big dates because it would not be good for these politicians if the market were to be crashing, in my honest opinion. Then after that, guys, after this, we pass this line. Once we approach the ninth or so, it's not going to be as good, in my opinion. I think the market could reverse pretty quickly, especially going into CPI. So please be ready for this. This is what I'm essentially projecting. I'll go into more specific detail on a Sunday about this, but that's kind of like what my short-term projection is for Tesla. When it comes to Elon Musk, all right, unfortunately, ever since this whole Twitter fiasco, there's a lot of work he has to do involving Twitter. He did mention the fact that they're making lots of changes to the employees. They are laying off a lot of them. And on top of this, guys, I haven't necessarily seen him actually tweet about Tesla in a very long time. It seems like the large majority of his tweets are just about Twitter. That's what's on his mind, which is completely fine. It's his life, his decisions. But I did really love those times where he would actually give us big updates and his thoughts on big models. I do believe that Tesla has so much going on for it, so it doesn't necessarily like matter a whole lot. But at the same time, guys, it's my own preference. I would love Elon Musk to tweet a little bit more about Tesla, maybe say any of his thoughts or maybe give us more updates. But anyways, it's still all right because he's still doing a great job nonetheless. Tesla's working very hard on their mega packs. And on top of that, I do anticipate some pretty strong earnings for the long term future. For the short term future, though, for like Q4 and maybe for Q1 of 2023, I'm not as like excited about earnings. I'm not as apprehensive as maybe some people are, but at the same time, uh, I'm not like expecting, I don't have as high expectations because I know these rate hikes are affecting them. And I also know that demand is slowing down, especially in the car industry, and it is going to affect Tesla. With that said, guys, please enjoy the rest of your weekend. I am a little bit more bullish than bearish for the first half of the upcoming week, but for the second half, I am not as bullish because of CPI. I'm pretty nervous about that, so please be ready, guys. Do what you have to do, guys. Please take a break from the markets if you guys want. Do what's best for your own futures, and just note that the future is still very bright. No matter how much red we're seeing in the markets, guys, I'm still very bullish long term on Tesla. So be ready, remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla to the moon because the long term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.